As we discussed, with the ever-growing fascination around the darkest monarchs in history, I thought I'd take a closer look at one of England's most infamous rulers. A woman feared in her own time and remembered as a monster ever since. Mary the First of England, the one they still call Bloody Mary. Now, most Americans hear the name and think of a ghost in a mirror. But the real woman was far more terrifying. Born in 1516 to Henry VIII and his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, Mary was the only surviving child of their union. And from the very beginning, her life was soaked in trauma, abandonment, and religious obsession. Her father cast Catherine aside for Anne Boleyn and tore the country away from the Catholic Church just to do it. Mary was declared illegitimate, stripped of her title, and banned from seeing her own mother. That kind of rejection, it doesn't heal, it festers. Mary spent much of her early life in isolation, clinging to her Catholic faith like a lifeline. When Henry died and Edward VI took the throne, Protestant reformers had their way with England. Catholicism was in the gutter. Mary, now a grown woman, was treated like a relic of the old world. But when Edward died young, just 16, and Lady Jane Grey was shoved onto the throne for a pitiful 9 days, Mary rose up with the fury of generations. She seized the crown in 1553 and vowed to restore England to the true faith. Now, this is where the lunacy begins. Mary wasn't just devout, she was fanatical. Her reign became a crusade. Over the course of 5 years, she ordered the execution of nearly 300 Protestants, men, women, even young girls, burned alive, publicly. Some of them screamed her name as the flames took them. Others sang hymns. The air in London must have stunk of scorched flesh and fear, but Mary called it righteousness, and that's how you get remembered as bloody. But here's the twist most people don't know. She believed she was saving their souls. To her, the burnings weren't cruelty, they were mercy. She truly believed she was God's hand on earth. That's what makes it all the more chilling. She didn't think she was mad. She thought she was holy. As if the religious violence wasn't enough, Mary's personal life was a pit of despair. At 37, she married Philip II of Spain, a cold, calculating man who never loved her. The English people hated him. He was foreign, Catholic, and arrogant. Mary, desperate to produce an heir and secure a Catholic dynasty, believed herself pregnant, twice. But both times nothing, no child, just swelling, sickness, and heartbreak. What historians now call false pregnancies may have actually been tumors or psychological delusion. She wasted away, clinging to hope, while her body gave her nothing but lies. By the end of her reign, her enemies were everywhere. The economy was a disaster. Her wars cost English lives and coin. Her people were starving. Even her allies turned cold. Her husband barely wrote. Her half-sister Elizabeth was growing more popular by the day, and Mary knew she'd failed. No heir. Just ash and blood and regret. When she died in 1558, she was only 42. Racked with pain, possibly suffering from uterine cancer, her last days were spent in agony, convinced she was still pregnant, convinced that God would not forsake her, and yet he did. She died childless, alone, and hated by most of the country she once ruled. Her body was buried in Westminster Abbey, but when Elizabeth took the throne, she had Mary buried beneath her. Not beside her, beneath her. That says everything. Today, we remember Bloody Mary as a tyrant, a failure, and a fanatic. But look deeper, and you see a broken girl used by kings, betrayed by fathers, rejected by her country, and left to rot in her own madness. Her reign was short, her impact, unforgettable. And as for that name we whisper in the mirror, maybe it sticks because deep down, you recognize the horror of someone who believed so deep, burned the world for her version of salvation. The year before Mary I ascended to the throne, England came within an inch of having a queen named Jane. Lady Jane Grey was a mere 17 when her father, the Duke of Northumberland, engineered a coup to put her on the throne. Edward VI, in his death throes, was convinced to swap out his own heir for Jane, who reigned for 9 days before Mary arrived back from France, raised up by supporters and proclaimed monarch. After Jane's brief but illustrious reign, She was imprisoned in the Tower of London and sentenced to death. However, the order was never carried out, and she lived until 1559. Though no records exist of why her sentence was commuted, many historians believe it was due to sympathy for Mary. In fact, some claim that Mary and Jane were cousins by marriage and friends in childhood, which might explain Mary's hesitancy to carry out the sentence. Mary I inherited a powder keg. England had swung wildly between Catholicism and Protestantism during the reigns of her father and her brother. This caused constant upheaval and instability, something Mary sought to remedy by restoring Catholicism as the state religion. Naturally, this angered the Protestant faction of the population. As Mary began to reassert Catholicism, she faced opposition not only from the English people, but from her own family. Mary's half-sister, Princess Elizabeth, was a Protestant and incredibly popular among the people. She may have also had a claim to the throne had Mary been declared illegitimate, as some historians contend. For the sake of stability, Mary kept Elizabeth alive, though she spent much of her reign fearing a rebellion from her younger sibling. In addition to pacifying her subjects, Mary had to contend with foreign affairs. She fought a war against Scotland over control of the Scottish border area, known as the Rough Bounds, and she got into a massive disagreement with France over control of the island of Jersey. During her reign, Mary earned the nickname Bloody Mary because she oversaw the executions of around 300 Protestants, earning her a place among the most feared monarchs in history. Nevertheless, Mary considered herself a martyr for the Catholic faith and saw her persecutions as a necessary evil. In an effort to turn England back to Catholicism, Mary established the Catholic Church as the official state religion, dissolved Protestant monasteries and convents, confiscated their property, and sent many of the monks and nuns to live in exile abroad. But perhaps her greatest blunder was passing the 1554 Act of Reunion, which made England once again a part of the Roman Catholic Church. This meant that she was subject to the authority of the Pope, which caused tensions with her husband, King Philip II of Spain, who felt that he should be the head of the church in England. Tensions between the couple would continue to rise throughout their marriage, causing Mary to grow increasingly isolated. Mary I was already in her mid-30s when she met her husband Philip II of Spain. He was widely seen as a foreigner in England and disliked by the English people. He visited England only twice during his marriage to Mary, staying for a total of about 6 months. The two were united in their devotion to Catholicism and had several shared interests, including hunting. But Mary was physically unattractive and obese, and she was extremely insecure about it. She never took the customary veil worn by English queens when she appeared in public. Perhaps most importantly, Mary was desperate to have a child and secure a Catholic heir to the throne. Unfortunately, she suffered several miscarriages, and historians now believe that she likely had uterine cancer, explaining her inability to bear children. Her inability to produce an heir would prove to be one of the major disappointments of her reign and contribute to her downfall. Mary I died believing herself to be pregnant for the last time. Historians believe she was likely experiencing another false pregnancy brought on by her delusional state and cancer-ridden body. She passed away on November 17, 1558, at the age of 42. She was buried in Westminster Abbey next to her father, Henry VIII, but later her half-sister Elizabeth had her remains moved beneath her own tomb. Today, Mary, the First's legacy, is a dark one. She's best remembered for her violent persecution of Protestants, earning her the nickname Bloody Mary. But some historians argue that her actions were those of a devout woman trying to restore her faith to England. They also point to her desire for peace and stability in her kingdom as evidence of a good if misguided ruler. Whether you view her as a hero or a villain, there is no denying that Mary they played a critical role in shaping England's path to becoming a world power. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.